Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
I walked into the room still smelling like airplane peanuts and recycled air. My suitcase was in the rental car. I hadn't even changed out of my jeans. Everyone else looked like they'd come straight from a damn TED Talk. Pressed suits, hair blown out, shoes you don't wear unless someone's dead or you're selling a company. Both were technically true. The email had said, "Urgent matter regarding Dr. Lane's estate." 10 words. No warmth, just like him. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The conference room was all cherry wood and glass, like they wanted the grief to look expensive. I spotted Marla immediately, sitting at the head like she was born to command attention. That shiny blouse probably cost more than my whole flight. She didn't look at me, but she knew I was there. Everyone did. My name is Carrie Baxter. I'm 34. I live in Richmond, Virginia. I took the empty chair at the far end and crossed my arms. Marla had one ankle casually perched over a sharp black heel, like she was posing for a business magazine. She'd been Lane's golden girl after me, the one he kept around after I got shoved out. The lawyer went down the list, voice flat, reading off shares, properties, patents, all tied to the research lab Lane built in Seattle. One guy got naming rights to the latest project. Another got his damn house. I kept waiting. My name hadn't come up once, until the end. "To Miss Carrie Baxter," the lawyer said, without even looking up. "The late Dr. Lane bequeaths the contents of his storage unit located at LockSafe number 192 in Greenville, Ohio." That was it. No context, no explanation, just a dusty locker in the middle of nowhere. Marla's lips barely twitched. I caught it. That micro smirk she thought I wouldn't see. Everyone else looked politely confused or just indifferent. I stood up. No one stopped me. No one even asked if I had questions. Maybe they thought I was embarrassed. I wasn't. I was pissed. I didn't wait for the paperwork. I didn't even grab a water bottle from the side table. I just walked out of that overpriced shrine to Lane's ego, straight back into the heat of the parking lot. I had to see what was in that unit. I didn't know what he was playing at, but I knew one thing for sure. Lane never did anything without a reason. And he sure as hell didn't leave me out by accident. The LockSafe in Greenville looked like the kind of place where forgotten junk went to rot. Gravel lot, dented roll-up doors, and a keypad that barely beeped when I punched in the code the lawyer gave me. Number 192 sat wedged between a rusted-out camper shell and a busted vending machine. When I pulled the door open, it groaned like it hadn't moved in years. Inside smelled like old rubber bands and burnt solder. The dust hit me first, then the heat, stale and trapped, like it hadn't been aired out since Lane first locked it up. The unit was maybe 10 by 12. Tight. No shelves, just a stacked mess of cardboard boxes labeled in Sharpie. X9A4, R Delta 7, H3C tape. Nothing useful. Just that cold, cryptic way Lane always cataloged everything. But there was one thing that didn't match. Sitting dead center on top of an old rolling chair was a cracked leather briefcase. I recognized it immediately. He used to bring it to late-night grant meetings, when he didn't want questions, just obedience. Now it looked like it had been run over by a truck. One side torn, handle ripped, zipper half melted. Inside was a beat-up laptop. Black, old. Battery corroded so bad it had leaked into the padding. I lifted it carefully, and that's when I saw the sticky note taped underneath the case. A faded yellow square with a string of numbers and 3 scrawled words. "They'll erase everything." I sat down on a crate, pulled my adapter from my bag. Same brand, same model. Lucky guess. And plugged the thing in. It buzzed once, then nothing. I pressed the power button anyway. 10 seconds, then 15. Then the fan kicked in with a wheeze. The screen flickered to life, scratched like someone had cleaned it with steel wool. A boot menu came up. No password prompt, no splash screen. Just 3 files listed on a blank desktop. Corelog_T4- vaultaccess.xlsxdr lane rednote.docx_maut h_delta.revision.move. I froze when I saw the first file. Corelog_T4. That wasn't just a prototype. It was the prototype? Lane's dream project. The Access Vault idea he swore would reshape digital gene archiving. He talked about it for years, but it never made it past version 2. Said version 4 got corrupted, said it failed. But he lied. He didn't kill it. He buried it. I clicked it open. Excel launched. Data streamed in. Raw input logs, sample IDs, and access hashes, all time-stamped and unsubmitted. The sheet was loaded with error tags, crossed out cells, and hidden columns. I knew what I was looking at. It wasn't a failed prototype, it was finished. And it worked. Someone made sure no one ever saw this. I flipped to the doc file. Red note. It was Lane's personal log, or part of it. No greeting, no intro, just, if this gets found, assume I didn't hand it over willingly. He laid it out plain. The pressure to approve changes, threats of funding cuts, someone falsifying timestamps to bypass his authority. He didn't name names, but he mentioned internal conflict with key lead staff and unauthorized reallocation of IP designation. That was Marla. It had to be. She was the only one with enough access and enough ambition. The third file, the video, was damaged. I clicked it anyway. No video feed, just black screen and audio. Lane's voice low and raspy. I told her no, I won't change it. If she wants to take it, she'll have to forge it. But I'm not dying with a lie attached to my name. I sat there just breathing, the whir of the laptop fan filling the silence. My pulse thudded in my ears. He knew it was coming. And he still trusted me enough to lock this thing away for me to find. I closed the laptop, wrapped it in my hoodie, and shoved it deep into my backpack. I didn't know who they were yet, but I damn well knew what they wanted to erase, and I wasn't about to let them. I showed up 10 minutes late on purpose. Let them sweat it out. The place was one of those dim, modern wine bars, with the kind of menu where the appetizers don't have vowels and everyone pretends they like anchovies. Lane's favorite spot, apparently, or maybe just Marla's, now that she got to rewrite the story. There were about 15 people, all from the lab, investors, old colleagues. Everyone dressed like they were auditioning for a startup pitch. Except Marla, who looked like she came straight from the cover of Forbes Women to Watch. She spotted me near the bar and waved like we were best friends from college. I walked over without smiling. I'm so glad you came, she said, brushing her palm against my arm like we'd ever been that kind of warm. He would have wanted it. I'm sure, I said flatly, and grabbed the empty seat at the long table, dead center, across from her. By the time they brought out the second round of drinks, she stood to give her toast. To legacy, she said, lifting her glass. To the vision Lane poured into all of us, and to the future he trusted us to protect. Then she looked right at me. He believed in leaving things with the right people. There it was. Everyone raised their glasses like they hadn't just heard a shot fired. I didn't say a word, not yet. I waited. Dinner was all polite chatter, old stories, veiled flexes about grant money and tenure tracks. I didn't join in. I just kept glancing at her boyfriend, Trent something. He was a lawyer for one of the biotech firms tied to Lane's IP. Young, slick, and fidgety as hell. Wouldn't look me in the eye. I waited until dessert, some fancy plate of dusted chocolate crumbs and cherry reduction, before I spoke. Funny, I said loud enough to stop the conversation next to me, because I found a few things that don't add up, and some old drafts he never got around to deleting. Marla's fork paused mid-cut. Her smile held, but it twitched. I don't know what you think you've got, she said, tone sweet, but you're grasping. No grasping. Just reading. Lot of logs. Some skipped approvals. Lane was meticulous, never skipped anything. Trent shifted in his seat, took a drink, avoided my eyes. I leaned back and looked right at her. There's one file in particular, doesn't match the submitted version, but you already knew that. She blinked. That was it. A 1-second flinch. But it told me everything. Careful, she said, voice tighter now. Throwing around accusations without evidence? That's a fast way to get buried in legal. I'm not accusing. Yet. I picked up my wine glass and tipped it toward her. I'm just saying Lane left more behind than you thought. Her nails tapped the stem of her glass once, twice. Then she laughed, light and forced. Well, she said, rising from her chair, thank you all for being here. Lane would have been proud. And just like that, she ended the night. But I saw it. The panic. She knew exactly what I'd found, or close enough to start scrambling. I left the wine bar and didn't bother with a goodbye. Drove straight to the hotel, dropped my bag, and opened the laptop on the desk like it was a live grenade. Then I called Darnell. We hadn't talked in over a year, but he picked up after 2 rings. Still had the same deep voice, like someone who'd smoked too long but never actually did. You still doing freelance audits? I asked. Who's asking? Someone with a zipped folder and a big problem. I didn't give him details over the phone. Just said it was confidential, urgent, and possibly illegal, but not on my end. He didn't even hesitate. Send it. I scrubbed all the identifiers I could, zipped the files, encrypted them twice, and pushed them through a private link. Do not mention this to anyone, I said. Not my first fire drill, Carrie. Give me 2 hours. I spent those 2 hours pacing the room, drinking 2 cans of lukewarm Coke from the minibar, and checking the deadbolt 3 times. At exactly the 2-hour mark, my phone lit up with a text. 3 modified file logs, forged signature data, 1 missing audit report. We need to talk. I called immediately. Break it down, I said. He didn't waste time. The Excel file has a digital fingerprint mismatch, meaning someone altered it after the last secure sign-off. The signature tag shows it was reviewed and approved, but the timestamp doesn't match the system log. Meaning Lane didn't sign it. Someone spoofed his signature using a proxy profile, probably copied from an older approved draft. I sat down hard. That's not even the worst of it, Darnell added. There's worse? The audit trail attached to the submission was deleted, like ripped out of the archive manually. It takes root access to do that. Who had root? He didn't answer for a second. I traced metadata. There's a record of a user logging in under the admin account 2 days before Lane's death. It was a local access, not remote. I already knew what was coming. Username? Marla Walker. I let that sink in. She'd done it. Not just forged the files. She went in through the back end and wiped the digital footprint, and Lane must have known. That video wasn't just a warning. It was a goddamn receipt. Anything else? Yeah, he said. That MOV file you sent, the video? There's more audio buried in the header data. It was partially wiped but not clean. I recovered a line. I swallowed. What line? He read it slow. I told her no. I won't change it. If she wants it, she'll have to forge it. I didn't speak, just sat there staring at the wall like it would give me the next move. She went in through the lab's master key, he added. There's only 2 people who had that override, Lane and her. I exhaled through my teeth. Prep a clean copy of everything. Timestamp logs, signature data, audit gaps, metadata. No fluff. You going federal? I'm going wherever this blows up fastest. He didn't argue. Send me an address. I'll courier it in a tamper-sealed drive. We hung up. I backed up every file twice. One to a vault I set up back in DC, the other to an offshore cloud server I hadn't touched since my compliance days. I encrypted them with separate keys and printed out a hard copy index just in case. Marla thought she buried this. Thought Lane was her last loose end. She was wrong. I drove to Marla's condo the next morning before the sun cleared the trees. Quiet neighborhood, tight driveways, fake stone mailboxes. She lived in the kind of place that screamed, I won. I parked across the street and waited. At 7:18, her garage door opened. She stepped out in gym leggings and a zip-up that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She paused at the sidewalk, saw me get out of the car, and froze. I walked right up and handed her the envelope. She looked down at it, then back at me. What is this? Printout of the digital signature logs. Go ahead. Take your time. She opened it. Her eyes scanned fast, like she didn't want to admit she recognized what she was seeing. Then she looked up. You don't know what you're starting? Sure I do, I said. You buried the truth because you couldn't beat him, so you replaced him. She laughed, but it was dry, humorless. You think anyone's gonna believe the woman he pushed out 3 years ago? I leaned in, kept my voice low. I'm not planning on convincing anyone. I'm going to prove it. Her eyes narrowed. She folded the pages slowly, deliberately, like she wanted to buy herself time. You have no idea how much this will blow back on you, she said. You think I care? I nodded at the envelope. You forged his signature, Marla. You deleted audit records. I've got metadata, timestamps, and a digital trail with your login all over it. She stepped closer. You want to ruin your own career over a dead man and some bitter grudge? I didn't blink. It's not a grudge. It's theft. Fraud. You used Lane's name to get that lab approval. Then you rewrote the share allocations. That got her. Her jaw tightened. You have no proof of share changes, she said. I tilted my head, just slightly. I didn't say anything about the shares being revised. She froze. Half a second, just long enough. You just did. Silence hung there, long, ugly. Then she took a step back, arms crossed. This is desperation, Carrie. You want back in, you want recognition, but this isn't the way. You still think this is about getting back in? I asked. You think I give a damn about some title on a plaque? I pointed to the envelope. That man built something real, and you faked your way into owning it. She opened her mouth to speak, then stopped. For once, she didn't have a line ready. Here's how this goes, I said. I'm filing. The logs, the wiped video, the voice line. She'll have to forge it. That's on tape. And your name is all over the root access logs. You're bluffing, she muttered, but her voice dropped a notch. Then sleep well tonight. I turned and walked back to my car. Didn't wait for her to follow. Didn't look back. She slipped. She confirmed something no one should have known. And I had everything I needed. Back in the car, I texted Darnell. She slipped. Confirmed the share changes. His reply came a minute later. Got something else. Name in the revision logs, Sylvia Prewitt. I sat up straight. That name I remembered. Sylvia used to float around the office like wallpaper. Polite, quiet, always with a legal pad in her hand. She worked Lane's contracts, not big time, but enough to witness signatures, track drafts. She was there for the ugly years. The years I got edged out. I searched public records and found nothing recent, but an old LinkedIn page and a couple of church newsletters gave me a clue. A community volunteer note listed her as retired, residing in Columbus, with an address. I drove 3 hours, parked across from a row of townhomes, and walked to the unit number. Front porch had wind chimes and a chipped plant stand with fake ivy. The screen door creaked when I knocked. She cracked the main door open halfway. Yes? Sylvia, my name's Carrie Baxter. I worked with Dr. Lane. Her face paled. She started to close the door. Please, I said. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need 10 seconds. I can't talk about this, she whispered. I told them. I pulled out my phone, pressed play on the voicemail Lane had left, the one buried on the old drive. If anything happens to me, she did it. You know what file? Sylvia stopped moving. The door stayed half open. I waited. Her hand trembled as she opened it another inch. You weren't supposed to hear that. I know, but I did. And I think you were the last person he trusted. She didn't answer, just looked behind her, then stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind her. I notarized a signature, she said, barely above a whisper. It was a Friday, late. Marla brought it, said Lane had already approved it, that he just couldn't be there in person. She had the documents, the ID copy, and a note, typed, not signed. Did you talk to Lane about it after? I tried, she said, but he didn't come in that Monday. Then the news broke. She looked down at her feet. I've kept quiet. I wanted to believe maybe I misunderstood or that he changed his mind, but I knew. I knew he never signed that file. I watched her wrestle with it, whatever guilt she'd been holding onto for months. Then she turned back to the door and disappeared inside for a full minute. When she returned, she had a sealed envelope in her hands, brown, unlabeled. He gave me this a few weeks before he died, said to give it to someone who deserved it. I asked what that meant. He just said, you'll know. I took it. It was heavier than it looked. I'm sorry I waited so long, she said. Number you didn't. You gave it to the right person. She nodded, then went back inside and locked the door behind her. I walked back to my car without opening the envelope. Not yet. But I knew what was in it wasn't just paper, it was leverage. And someone was about to pay for using Lane like a stepping stone. I didn't waste a minute. I drove straight to the Office of Research Integrity with the sealed envelope on the passenger seat and 2 backup drives in my glove box. I had Darnell's logs printed, time-stamped, signed. Lane's voicemail, digitized and transcribed. Sylvia's sworn statement, notarized at the UPS store before I hit the freeway. The woman at the front desk asked if I had an appointment. No, I said. But I have proof of federal research fraud, forged documentation, and a dead man's voice saying exactly who did it. They had me in a glass-walled conference room within 5 minutes. 2 compliance officers came in first, followed by a university lawyer with gray hair and an expression like she'd smelled something rotting. I handed over the folder and the drive without a word. Let them read. Let them sweat. The lawyer's eyebrows went up about 30 seconds into the signature logs. By the time they hit the video transcript, the room went quiet. This signature was used to approve T4 vault access, one of them said finally. It was forged, I said. You'll find a gap in the audit log. A complete overwrite by Marla Walker using her elevated credentials. 2 days before Lane died, another flipped through the paperwork. These files weren't in our official repository. No, I said, because she wiped the repository and replaced it with her own version. She also removed my co-developer credit, backdated the share allocation, and buried the final lab revision to tie her name to it instead of Lane's. The ORI director came in halfway through and asked to see everything from the top. I explained it again, line by line, piece by piece, while she took notes with one hand and texted with the other. When I finished, she stood. We'll initiate an emergency review, she said. Effective immediately. You'll receive formal notice by tomorrow. They escorted me out politely, but I could already feel the walls closing in behind me. By noon the next day, Lane's lab account was frozen. Federal research grants, all $8.2 million worth, were on hold. The university's legal team went full lockdown. Everything tied to the T4 project got flagged. At 2:37 p.m., I got the email. Please deliver formal notification to Ms. Marla Walker. Do not engage. I printed the notice and drove straight to campus. She was just stepping outside the building, phone in hand, wearing a blazer like nothing in the world could touch her. Until I called her name. She turned. I handed her the envelope. Her smile dropped the second she saw the header. This a joke? She asked. Does it look like I'm joking? She opened it right there on the steps. The color left her face by the second paragraph. She didn't even try to argue, just turned away and walked inside like the place might still protect her. But it didn't. By the next morning, Trent, the lawyer boyfriend, was already spilling. Ori brought him in for voluntary clarification, and within 2 hours, he gave them everything. Internal memos, off-record edits, email threads showing who changed what and when. He'd even helped her rewrite the share allocations to lock me out before filing. It was all in writing. And it was all time-stamped. Marla's whole playbook laid out in black and white. The next morning, I woke up to my own face. Headline, center screen. Disgraced former assistant alleges fraud. Motivated by personal grudge. It was everywhere. Social feeds, sidebar clickbait, biotech gossip blogs. The photo they used was from a team meeting back in 2019. I was standing at the edge of the group, slightly turned, mid-blink, cropped just enough to make me look like I didn't belong. Marla didn't wait a second. She went full spin mode. Public statement, press contact, carefully worded LinkedIn post. According to her, I was bitter, jealous, unstable. The former assistant with an axe to grind and too much time on her hands. She painted herself as the grieving protege, the woman trying to carry on her mentor's legacy while being harassed by a delusional ex-staff member, unable to let go of past conflicts. There was even a quote from her lawyer. Ms. Walker remains focused on her work and will not be distracted by baseless claims rooted in personal resentment. I didn't respond. No comments, no press rebuttal, no tweets. Instead, I zipped the full evidence folder, the logs, the forged signature audit, the internal memos, the voice file, the notarized statement, everything, and sent it anonymously to 3 outlets, ones that didn't trade favors for funding. I didn't even write a message, just labeled the files. Verification easy, time-stamped, no NDAs, and waited. 48 hours later, the second wave hit. Hard. The first outlet ran a quiet headline. Documents suggest fabrication of biotech approval logs at university lab. By noon, the bigger one followed up with forensic confirmations, metadata, authentication trails, screenshot comparisons, a whole damn timeline. Then came the dump, emails between Marla and Trent, with phrases like, just swap the date, and no one checks vault logs unless it's audited. They authenticated every single file. By the end of the day, her lab's sponsor pulled out. 2 research partners publicly distanced themselves. The lab board held an emergency vote and suspended her access pending investigation. All in 24 hours. She tried to walk it back, posted something about deepfakes and inaccurate leaks, but it was too late. She'd weaponized silence for months. Now it was cutting her to pieces. I didn't reply. I didn't post. I didn't show up because I didn't need to. I had the final audit in hand by the end of the week. Lane's real directives, the ones she'd kept hidden, were crystal clear. The university's legal team confirmed every single thing. The IP was always meant to be joint, my name attached to every published paper. The lab allocation, the one she'd backdated to eliminate me, that was undone too. The reinstatement didn't take long. They cleared my co-developer status, confirmed my share of the intellectual property. The recognition I never got, the one Marla tried so hard to bury, was finally mine. But Marla? Her name was officially stripped from everything. No more titles, no more grants, no more contracts. All her work, her supposed legacy, pulled apart like cheap fabric. And the federal charges? Wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy, those were real. The investigation was thorough, the evidence airtight. They'd already sent the feds after her and Trent. The fact she didn't show up for the final hearing, it spoke volumes. I sat in the courthouse lobby that afternoon, still holding the file with Lane's true intentions printed at the top. When I'd walked in, it had been for the last meeting to settle everything. When I left, the verdict was final. I had my name back, my work back. The years I lost, they couldn't be returned, but at least they weren't stolen anymore. Marla's lawyer, the same one who'd tried to play the well-meaning, misunderstood woman card earlier, approached me outside the building. He was slick, used to finessing deals, his shoes so polished I could have seen my reflection in them. "Ms. Baxter," he said, offering a hand that I didn't take, "we'd like to offer you a settlement, a fair compensation for—" I cut him off before he could finish his rehearsed line. "No," he blinked, clearly thrown. "I'm sure we could come to an understanding. A small settlement could—" "I'm not here for money." I looked him right in the eyes. "I'm here for the truth, and I've got it." His expression faltered. Maybe he realized the whole act was over. Maybe he thought about what was left for him now that Marla was exposed, the whole system of lies she'd built crumbling to dust. "I understand your position," he said, though it wasn't much of an apology. "But you should know this won't be the end for her. The backlash is—" "She'll be fine," I said, already turning away. "She'll land somewhere, but it's not going to be on top." He didn't argue. He didn't have a leg to stand on anymore. Neither did she. I walked out of the courthouse, the doors swinging open behind me. The air felt different now, lighter, like I could finally breathe again. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel like I was dragging the past behind me. I wasn't a ghost of someone else's story anymore. I had my own. I didn't need the settlement. I didn't need to convince anyone of what I'd been through. I had something better. I had the truth. I drove out to Locksafe one last time, the familiar stretch of highway passing in a blur. The place hadn't changed, still the same tired building with the same rusted roll-up doors. I parked, walked to the unit, and stood there for a second before I unlocked it. The stale smell of dust and rubber hit me again, just like the first time. I didn't need to be here, but I felt like I did. It wasn't about the storage or the things I'd left behind. It was about finishing it, about closing the door on everything that came before. The beat-up laptop and the papers were still there, but I didn't need them anymore. I didn't need any of it. What I did need was the photo. I found it tucked into an old cardboard folder, a picture from a science fair years ago. Lane and me, both grinning like we knew something no one else did. He had written on the back in his messy handwriting, "Don't let them rewrite it." I hadn't. I stuffed the photo into my jacket pocket and locked the unit one last time. I could have kept it all, the documents, the drives, the proof of everything, but it wasn't worth carrying anymore. I'd done what I needed to do. Back at my apartment, I packed everything away. The laptop, the final file, even the old badge Lane had given me the day I joined his lab. I couldn't throw them out. Maybe I never would. But they weren't mine to carry anymore. Some of us don't get inheritance. We get trials, and if you survive long enough to see justice, it's worth it. I didn't get the lab. I didn't get the title, the work, the recognition. It didn't matter, because I had the truth. I'd held it long enough for it to matter, and now it was done.